I'd like to welcome you to the memorial service for Janice Lynn Barbour. Janice, or Jan as I've always known her, was born April 25th, 1940, and she passed peacefully with her sons and daughter-in-law beside her on August 31st, 2022. Jan was born in Delano to Louis and Evelyn Schwacke. She went to Delano High School, where she met the love of her life, Clyde Barbour Sr. They were married shortly after graduation. They raised their two boys, Clyde Jr. and Gary. Jan worked a few different jobs during her career: Daily Studio, Cornettes, Hayward Lumber, and Floyd's. But she completed her career taking care of the family home and business for Barbour Electric with her husband Clyde Sr. You're going to hear this theme throughout the entire day, folks, so get used to it. Her family was her main priority. That was number one for Jan. And I've talked to many people, and their stories are all the same. I've talked to family, I've talked to friends, and the story was all the same. Her family was her main priority. She took care of her ailing parents in their time of need. She loved her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. If anyone needed anything, she was there to help. She enjoyed watching them play sports, cheer, and supported them in their school events. Jan was preceded in death by her parents, Louis and Evelyn Schwacke, her sister Mervydine, her husband Clyde Barbour Sr., and daughter-in-law Kim Barbour. She is survived by sons Clyde Barbour Jr. and Gary Barbour and his wife Cindy. Grandchildren Crystal Hope, Jeremy Barbour, Clyde Barbour III, and Damon Morey. Jan has 4 great-grandchildren that she's survived by: Paige and Ryan Hope, Jackson Barbour, and Paisley Barbour, who will make her entrance into this world in February of next year. Folks, today is all about remembering Jan. And so the family has asked me, they've given me some letters, and I will read a couple of letters. They've given me their thoughts, and these are their thoughts. So we'll start with Clyde Jr.'s thoughts. And at the beginning of his letter, Clyde said I could go on and on and on because of all of the memories he had of his mother. He said that she never put herself first. He remembered a story that when holy tennis shoes were the style when he was in school for a few years, she saw him wearing holy tennis shoes. And she said, you're not wearing holy tennis shoes anywhere. And made him go and get tennis shoes that didn't have holes in them. She made sure that her sons were taken care of. She made sure that her husband was taken care of. She loved the 3 men in her life at that time. But you know, as families do, they expand. Grandchildren are born. Nieces marry and bring people into the family. It didn't matter to Jan. She saw it as an opportunity to love on someone else. Jan loved her dogs. She had dogs from the time she was a little girl all the way to her passing. The very first time I met Jan, her dog Mimi did not care for me. Did not care for me. And Jan just encouraged me and said, just keep coming around. Mimi will get used to you. Mimi eventually liked me or tolerated me. She also liked to go out and see Trey working with his pigs. She would go to the, any animal she enjoyed being around. If her family had animals, that's where she wanted to be. Now, Jan wasn't fond of snakes, so guess what Trey does? He loves snakes. So Jan sucked it up, and she learned to like snakes, or maybe tolerate snakes. But there's a picture that I'm told of where Jan is reading to her Boo and his snake. That's how much she loves her family. The next memory that Junior brought up for the family is something that I know everyone in here will probably resonate with. Jan loved sending cards. And it wasn't just a card, happy birthday, happy anniversary. You got a letter, right? Especially at Christmas time. At Christmas time, you got a letter. That's how much she loved her family, and that's how much she loved you guys. Junior said when she would ask him to take her to the store to buy cards, he knew it was going to be a long, long day. Because Jan would look at every card. She had to find the perfect card for me. She had to find the perfect card for you. And she always came home with more cards than she intended to go buy. So she was always thinking of someone else. She was always thinking of you and me before herself. Junior also started his letter out saying that his mom was unique. Unique in many things, but especially unique in how she cleaned house. See, Jan's way of cleaning house was you tear everything apart and then you put it all back together. And he said it always amazed him that she had the house all back together by the time their dad got home. She tried that as she started living with Junior. She tried that one day, and he came home early, and he's like, "Mom, what are you doing?" And she said, "Well, maybe I'm not as young as I used to be." Jan loved her family very well. Her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, nieces and nephews were all blessed by Jan's love. Wherever her family was, that's where Jan wanted to be. If it was the lake, the cabin, the baseball field, the football field, the basketball court, the cheer competition, Jan was there. They could be playing hopscotch. Jan wanted to be there. As we know, Jan had many health issues throughout her life. Multiple surgeries. One cousin, and you'll hear in her letter, one cousin estimated 25 different surgeries. The family is convinced that a lesser person would have just quit and given up. Not Jan. But Jan took it a step farther. She was in pain, but she never complained. Why? Because you and I needed to be taken care of. always thinking about you and I. Even as she was in her skilled nursing facility, she was telling the family, I want you to make sure that you take care of this. I want to make sure that this is taken care of. She was always thinking about other people. Jan's going to be missed. But our comfort is knowing that she's reunited with Senior and other family members that have passed on. So now I'm going to read her granddaughter Crystal's letter. Because in Crystal's letter, it's short, but there's a lot there. A lot about what Jan meant to her, and I didn't want to miss some little details. Although you have been with me all my 39 years, and I will never feel like we had enough time together, you brought so much happiness to my life, and so many unforgettable memories. You were the keeper of the little critter books, and always there to read to me. Bought me every Easter dress and Christmas PJs. My memories on the houseboat, as well as never forgetting simple things, like to make goodies for every holiday for us to remember. And those are things that now my children cherish and have passed down from you. Grandma was a fighter, and the most driven, loving, and thoughtful woman I have ever known. She put the most time and effort that any granddaughter could ever imagine toward my children, Paige and Ryan. She attended any event, big or small. I could go on about my Grandma Jan, because at the end of the day, she wasn't just my grandma. She was my backbone, my best friend, my shopping buddy, my second parent, and to be honest, she knew me better than anyone else. Crystal ends her letter by saying, see you on the other side, Grandma. Give Papa and AJ a big hug. So you can see from not just family, but friends, extended family, Jan loved very well. I have two other letters that Jan's niece, my wife, Kathy, is going to read. One that she wrote, and then one of the cousins of Jan, Joyce Meenan, wrote a little note that she would like read this morning.
So I'm going to start with Joyce. And so this is Jan's cousin. And she said, some of the major highlights of my childhood were the family road trips from Lancaster to Delano to visit Mervydine and Janice on their big ranch, surrounded by acres and acres of vineyards. We would spend hours in their big backyard playing and being intrigued with their neighbors, who reportedly fried and ate grasshoppers. Through the years, we all marveled at Jan's courage, tenacity, and steadfastness as she endured multiple health challenges. She mentioned she had experienced some 25 surgeries. Through it all, her family remained first and foremost in her life. Oh, how she loved her husband and sons and grandchildren, and endlessly expressing her appreciation for their help, care, and love they had given her. I am so grateful to have had her as my cousin. I will miss you, Jan, so very much. And that's from Joyce Meenan, who couldn't be here. She's in Seattle and could not travel, but she wanted to share her thoughts. So my Aunt Jan was a kind and gentle woman with a strength about her. She personally kept the greeting card companies in business with the number of cards she sent. Like Jay said, she didn't miss a birthday, anniversary, or holidays. And in those cards were 2-page, double-sided, handwritten letters bragging about her boys, her grandkids, and great-grandkids. On a personal note, she was a referee between myself and my grandmother. She would drive us to the mall for school clothes shopping and then try her best to keep the peace between the two of us. She listened and provided advice as we vented to her about each other. Jan was the family historian who kept genealogies and made so many photo albums for us all. I think everyone in the family has an album she made for them, about them. She was loved by so many, and there is no doubt that she loved us.
Thank you, Kathy. So these are just a few words from different people, but I think you guys get the idea. You knew Jan. You knew how she loved. She loved very well. Here in a few minutes, you'll have an opportunity to share your memories if you feel like you're able to and want to. First, we're going to watch a slideshow presentation that Kathy has put together. So as that's going on, if it jogs some memories, right after that, I will be walking around and bring the microphone to you so that you can share with the family your memories of Jan.